Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be back here with you tonight. And I want to welcome our special presenter tonight, my dear friend Fran. And we are the Hypnotic Chicks, and we're presenting to you in the Hopenning, our program all about generating hope. And tonight, Fran is going to discuss anxiety with us. So, Fran, I'm looking very forward to hearing your discussion. And I want to tell you just a little bit about my background and my history with anxiety. I was 17 years old when I graduated high school, and I started to get anxiety attacks at night. And I would wake up in the middle of the night in an absolute anxiety attack. And that stayed with me for many years, and to the point where I would exhaust myself to the point where I just fall asleep out of exhaustion, because a lot of times I would go to bed with a lot of anxious thoughts. And it took me a lot of work and many, many years to overcome that. So here we have this wonderful privilege where we work in such a phenomenal platform, rapid transformational therapy, where I have seen how my clients transform in 2 short hours, and sometimes as little as 1 session, depending on the issue. So, Fran, I'm handing it all over to you, and please tell us more about why did you choose anxiety as a subject tonight?
Well, thank you. So, Marina, I am glad that you started by telling us your experience with anxiety. I've never experienced a panic attack, thank the good Lord. However, I was born a very anxious child. Right from the time I was little, I have memories of hiding behind my mom's legs, being so short, like I'm like just barely taller than her knees, and hiding behind her legs if anybody new came to visit. And most of the time me especially, I would hide. I would just hide because any type of a stranger was just scary for me. And so that progressed to, I was a bedwetter, right? I was a bedwetter. And I was a bright child. There was nothing wrong with my bladder, but I was really afraid to get up during the night, not because I was afraid of the dark or anything like that. I was afraid of bothering people at night, that someone would hear me come down the stairs, open the door, use the bathroom, flush it, right? I didn't want to bother anybody. I was so highly anxious. And then when I went to school, I was young. I was like you, started school young. I was, I was grade 1, I was 5 years old. And I wet my pants in school a few times because I was too afraid to ask the teacher if I could use the bathroom. And so I know what it's like to be anxious, and that stayed with me. It stayed with me until I became a teacher, really. I remember in university having to give presentations and my throat would tighten up, right? It was like I could barely talk and I would be shaking and the heart was just going. And all I could think about, I couldn't even think about anyone else's presentation because all I was worried about was, how am I going to do this? How can I do this? Just get me through this. I'm praying, just get me through this. And it took time and it took practice to be able to get good at speaking in front of others. And so I understand anxiety, as do you. And so when I hear about people having panic attacks, anxiety attacks, I understand it, even though I've never felt a panic attack. So we've learned through our studies that there's rules of the mind. And one of the rules of the mind is the mind will give you what it thinks you want. Well, I don't want a panic attack, and neither did you, and neither does anyone. Panic attacks are frightening. People have equated them to having a heart attack. Your heart is beating so rapidly, you start sweating, a cold sweat, cold palms of your hands. You feel like you can't breathe. Nobody wants that. So what am I saying? the mind will give you what it wants? Well, it's because of how we speak to the mind. So let's back up a little bit. We have been brought up in a certain way. We were taught certain things, or we came to assume certain things as a small child. And lots of times, the things that we thought were true when we were little was from a small child thinking and seeing and really not comprehending, because they don't have the developmental capacity to think through logically. So they come to a conclusion about something. And if that's not addressed, if it's not changed, you carry it through your whole life. So as a small child, I'm the one who was a bedwetter. I thought that coming down the stairs at night was going to disturb people and I would get in trouble for it. I didn't want to disappoint people. I didn't want anybody to be mad at me. So it was easier. The alternative was easier than to get something and to have someone mad at me, than to have someone yell at me. And so there's 3 reasons that the mind creates in us anxiety. And they all start with a P, so they're easy to understand. Protect, prioritize, or punish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all 3 of them and give you examples of them through my history with people and some of the clients I've had, sharing some details about what I've seen in my clients. And believe me, it's universal. It's universal how we feel. Punish, protect, and prioritize. And then I'll talk a little bit about what we can do if we are prone to anxiety. And I'll talk a little bit about how parents can help children, because you and I both know it's an epidemic.
You know, it's such a great time to discuss this, because I have encountered so many people right now in a pandemic who are just so ridden with fear and anxiety. I have encountered people who have not really left their homes in the last almost 2 years. I have encountered people who are so afraid of other people right now, and that brings on anxiety. And I talked about that last week, being in the city and even just walking my dog. You sense people's anxiety, you sense their fears, and so it's just such a good time to bring up this topic. So I'm looking forward to hearing about the 3 Ps.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's talk about the first one, punish. Why would your mind want to punish? You belong to me, mind. Why would you want to punish me? Well, it's how the mind believes what you, okay, so right from the time we're tiny, like newborns, right? A newborn is born needing someone to take care of them. So what we need is, we can't break the connection, right? We can't break that connection with whoever it is our caregiver. So babies cry because they need to be fed, they need to be changed, they also need to be loved. And studies show what happens in orphanages where a child is never held, is never given love. It'll waste away. There'll be nothing, the child will die. Babies are born needing to be loved. And so we try so hard to not lose the connection, not only because that's the person who feeds us, that's the person who cares for us, that's the person who loves us. And so from the time we're little, we learn that we need to keep this connection, or else we may die. And sometimes we never grow out of that. So let's say so in the field of the mind wants us to be punished. So I want to tell you an example of a close friend of mine that experienced trauma as a young teenager. So her very best friend was also her cousin. Her mother and her get a phone call early in the morning, 5 a.m. Phone rings. She answers the phone. She's up. She's doing her hair, getting ready for school. The phone rings. It's her auntie. It's her best friend's mother. Is your mom awake? I need to talk to her. So she gets her mother. Mom answers the phone. Oh no, there's something wrong with the cousin. Let's go over there right now. So they go over. The cousin is in the ambulance. In the ambulance? What? Nobody knows what happened. Cousin's in the ambulance. They're heading into the hospital. Hospital is 40 minutes away. The cousin died. So this young person, exactly the same age as my friend, dies of a brain aneurysm. I know. So part of her anxiety is guilt, the feeling of guilt.
It's survivor's
Why?
guilt, right?
Survivor's guilt. Logically, it doesn't make sense. She had nothing to do with that death, nothing. And yet, two peas in a pod. One is taken, one survives. Survivor's guilt. So now she's got anxiety to punish her for living.
Interesting.
It's sad, but true, right?
Yes. Yes, and that brings me to trauma, and trauma and enhanced anxiety. And I've seen this so many times where people, if there is PTSD, for example, if they were in a car accident, and now even sometimes if they just watch a movie and there's an accident scene, they get that anxiety attack from the PTSD.
Exactly. My brother-in-law was a submariner. So he was in the Korean War, and his submarine was blowing up. It took a torpedo, and it was hit so hard that he broke out. He's come up to the surface, he's out. His crewmen were trapped inside. So that submarine, I'm not sure how many feet down it was, but his crewmen were trapped inside. Now, he had been trained in going deep. He was an amazing swimmer, and that's what they had used him for. He went deep. He was a very good swimmer. He would attach bombs onto sides of hulls of ships because he was a very good swimmer. He went down time and time again while he's in shock to try to open up that lid to get his crewmates out, and he could not get them out. And so I believe on that, as a result of that, 23 crew members died.
Wow.
But he survived, and he lived with that guilt, and he lived with that anxiety. He had a very difficult time going to funerals that had nothing to do with what he had experienced when he was 20 years old. But it was all that anxiety that he continued to carry with him back from the time of that accident. So one of the reasons is to punish us, so that we can take some of that pain. It's as though we can carry that pain with us so that those people don't have to carry it. So the mind is an interesting thing. And Marissa Peer says, there's no point using logic to trump emotion. It's not going to happen. So it wouldn't matter how many times I would have said to my brother-in-law, Pete, that was 50 years ago. You tried to save those men. Logic never trumps emotion. Only emotion can trump emotion, a positive emotion to trump a negative emotion, such as trauma, anxiety. So that's the first thing. So the second, fascinating. The second thing the mind tries to do is to protect us. So it gives us anxiety to protect us. So there's such a thing as healthy anxiety. So if we know that that's a rattlesnake, we can hear it rattle. We know we're going to have anxiety, absolutely, because our mind is telling us, beware, go the other way. If we see that there's glare ice on the highway, we slow down. That's healthy anxiety. It's to keep us alive.
For those
There's
of us
lots.
who live in an icy country.
Exactly. So when we have healthy anxiety, that is something that's good for us. However, sometimes anxiety goes a little bit too far and protects us from things we don't need to be protected from.
Can you give us an example of that?
So I do have friends. I do have friends that refuse to drive in the winter. Refuse. As soon as the temperature gets below a certain temperature or there's snow on the ground, they will not drive. Okay, they are anxious. Maybe they've heard of car accidents, and there are car accidents, but not everybody gets into a car accident. But that's logic, right? Logic says, put some good tires on your vehicle. Make sure that you're traveling for the speed that the highway, what's a safe speed? Don't follow too close. Those are all logic. But when you develop this high anxiety for a certain thing, the high anxiety is going to trump any type of logic, because there's that chance. There's that 0.0001 chance that it could happen to you. It's the same with flying, right? People who refuse to fly because there have been plane crashes. Yeah. So I think that, there gets to be a point where that healthy fear, if it's not curbed, if it's not dealt with in a healthy way, it will become a phobia. And so that phobia could be spiders. So, I don't like spiders, but am I going to run down the street if I see one? No. I think a spider is more afraid of me than I am of it, but that's a phobia. Or you can have fear of flying. Fear of flying can be a phobia. Fear of driving is a phobia. There's lots of phobias where this anxiety takes over. It's one anxiety, but it becomes something that prevents you from living life to the fullest. And unfortunately, there are people that live that way. And so the third one. So first we've got punishing, and then we've got protecting. And the last one is prioritizing. We get anxiety so that we can become prioritized. So you'll say, Fran, how can anxiety ever make me feel better? Or make me more likable, or make me more lovable, or make me more wanted? Well, let's think about your favorite hypochondriac. And most people in our life, most people have someone in their lives, if not more than one, who tend to be the one who gets sick a lot. Or the next flu bug that comes along, they're going to catch it. Or they're the one that broke their whatever it is. Mention many different body parts. It could be them. And they don't do it on purpose.
Yeah.
And that's what's important to know, Marina. This is not on purpose. This is the subconscious mind. But remember the law of the mind. The mind will do for you what it thinks you want.
Right.
So let's say I am a child who doesn't get much attention. I've got other people in my family who tend to get the attention before I do. I've got this much smarter sister. I've got a very capable brother. I've got this sports, someone in my, some kind of sibling who's so good at sports. Or I've just got this sibling who's so sweet and kind, everybody loves. And then there's me, right? I don't have all those talents. I'm not super smart. I do have a bit of an attitude, and I'm not always the kindest person. And then what's left? What's left? Well, maybe if I get a cold, maybe if I start throwing up, maybe if I have some type of an ailment, I get more attention, which obviously, when you're a small child, will happen. Because nobody likes listening to a child cry because they've got tonsillitis or a bad tooth or anything else, right? You do get attention. Remember, this is the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind has realized, oh, wow, I got some of mom's attention. Mom's holding me. Mom's rocking me. Mom's singing to me. Mom's patting. This feels good.
Yes, I've seen this frequently with clients when they are prone to accidents, being sick constantly. It all goes back to where did they get their attention as a child. And it reminds me of what we learned in RTT about the 4 roles in a family. You're either the overachiever, always excelling in everything you do. You are the caregiver, wanting to just give all the love and attention to everybody around you. You are the one that's all constantly sick, or you are the rebel. And reflecting back on my own life, I had phases of each one in my life, but I think in my younger childhood, it was definitely more the one who always had something wrong with me. And so I can absolutely relate to that. You're just looking for that love and attention. And if you don't get it, you're going to look in it in one of those areas. So it's just natural, and it's not on purpose at all. Exactly what you said.
Absolutely not. It's not on purpose. The problem with anxiety is it can cause physical symptoms later, right? So one of my very best friends, she's a highly anxious person. If it's Christmas, she's shopping on Boxing Day to get ready for next Christmas. Not because of the sales. I mean, the sales kind of help, right? In Canada, we have Boxing Day the day after Christmas, where there's lots of sales on, but she's getting ready for next Christmas. I also have another friend who has to have her paperwork done a month in advance. There's no point even asking.
Honestly, I'm envious. I'm the opposite. I wait till the last moment.
We have our reasons for that.
Indeed.
You are not alone, honey. Right? We do. We get it in. We make the deadline every time, and it's fantastic.
So isn't that also, if you do it in the last minute, isn't that also a matter of anxiety in a positive way? If you know you're not going to get away with it, then and the adrenaline is flowing, you have anxiety. What if I don't get it done? And then you jump into action.
Exactly. And you know what? I have always found over the years, because I used to do this in university too, which was 35 years ago, I could never start a project right away because I didn't even know what to write about. So I'd have to wait and get some information and maybe, put some ideas together. And that's just the way my brain used to think. But if I'd have had a parent who was like looking at their watch going, how come you haven't, how come? A highly anxious parent, right? That liked to meet deadlines, that would have made me highly anxious. I don't know if it would have speeded me up, but it would have sure made me highly anxious.
Well, I have deja vu because I have done so many all-nighters as a student where I just, oh my goodness. Yes, if I can have a do-over, I will not do that again.
And I think part of the healing process with anxiety is understanding yourself.
Absolutely.
Right? When we understand ourselves and not get caught up in the wave of everybody else's panic and anxiety, if we understand that I know that I'll get this done, I know it, and I know that I function best this way, and I'll be just fine. I think that's part of the healing part of it.
Fantastic.
Because for highly anxious people that are always worried about the next deadline, and they haven't even, they're always worried about the next. Well, that causes real physical damage. It causes stomach issues, right? So when we start having problems like Crohn's, colitis, those types of illnesses, yeah, it's related to the gut bacteria and stuff, but it's related as well to anxiety. And how well are we handling our anxiety? What are we doing about our anxiety? We could pop a pill, but the pill is going to make some other side effect somewhere else. And so the cycle continues. Heart attack, stroke.
So, Fran, if you have a client today coming to you, there's a few things that you mentioned that really perked my interest. So I'm a performer, and there is definitely something like performance anxiety. And even in the work we do now, we have to become visible, because if we are not visible, people won't know that we do what we do. And even in that, sometimes I get performance anxiety. I second guess myself. We call it imposter syndrome. So how would you guide a client like that who has a performance anxiety? I'm putting you on the spot.
Not really at all, because performance anxiety is projecting forwards, right? We create a vision in our minds of the worst possible scenario. I'm going to choke up. I will forget what I'm going to say. I will trip going on stage. I will drop the mic. I will. So we speak all these comments to ourselves to create even more heightened anxiety. Well, we need to change the phrases, right?
Okay.
It's change the phrase. Instead of saying, I'm so scared, I'm so worried that this is not going to end well, I'm so anxious. What ifs, the what ifs, right? What if? Well, first of all, what if it doesn't? So let's change the phrase. Instead of saying, I'm so worried about this, how about we say, I'm so excited about this? Because you know what, Marina? The physical effects of excitement and anxiety, that's the same thing. We've been on roller coasters before. We've been on a first date. Heart palpitations. Our heart beats faster.
Yeah.
On a roller coaster, our hearts are beating faster. First date, woo, pitter patter. Anxiety, your heart beats faster. How many times have you held a sweaty palm on the first date? Many times. Same thing with anxiety, sweaty palms.
I find that I get really cold, especially before big performers. I get really cold. But it's absolutely true what you say. It's turning that same energy into excitement. And to me, one of the biggest things was to decide, I don't care if I'm not good enough, as long as I enjoy it. That's okay.
Yeah. So the body doesn't know, right? All the body knows is cortisol. The body knows the cortisol, but we're in charge of the mind, which feeds the cortisol. So you're going to have cortisol, fight, flight, or freeze. That's what cortisol does. Fight, flight, or freeze. Whether you're highly anxious or whether you're in excitement, Your body's rushing through cortisol. Imagine if you're at the start line of a race. Your body's flooded with cortisol. Why? Not because there's a saber-toothed tiger behind you, but because you're running. You're running and you're going to win, right?
It's almost just
So
refocusing the cortisol into a better story.
better story is right. And a better ending to the story.
Right.
So our mind responds to pictures and words. So instead of picturing yourself falling off the stage, instead of picturing yourself choking up and not being able to sing or not
Forgetting
being
the
able to
words.
speak, forgetting the words, picturing yourself being laughed at by the crowd, picture yourself enjoying it. Picture yourself in front of the crowd and they're smiling and they're excited to listen to you. And they come at the end of it and say how much they enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You know, and that takes work, right? It's not easy because we've talked about this before. What repetition does, if we have a habit of catastrophizing everything, the worst is going to happen. If that's become our habit, it's, you know, we have to work on breaking that habit. It's work, but it's something that has to be done. Otherwise, it develops into something bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's why anxiety in children needs to be addressed, because studies have shown anxiety becomes depression. Anxiety can become drug and alcohol and substance abuse. It can also lead to suicide. So if we can start talking about it when it's still in a child, talk about anxiety, then we can make headway so that we don't end up with adults who have anxiety, high anxiety, to the point where it's debilitating.
So talk to me about what we are facing now as a society. And you and I both know people and clients who are extremely anxious because of the pandemic. How would you address that?
Yeah, it's so, the self-talk is really important, right? One important thing is to take baby steps. So if you know someone, if our viewers know someone who's afraid to leave the house, so baby steps. How about this time when we do leave the house and it's not just to pick up the groceries that have been deposited on our front step, we actually make it to a certain location, a safe location, because if they're afraid to leave their house, that's the P that's protecting them, right? They're afraid of getting sick. So in order to protect you, I'm going to keep you in the house. So let's go to a safe location. A safe location might be just walking down the street to a spot and then coming back. And then the next time they leave the house, walking a little further. Then challenge yourself. Next time I leave the house, I'm going to actually talk to someone or say hello, or those tiny baby steps. It's baby steps that create a good habit. Baby steps create bad habits, and baby steps create good habits. It's all about repetition and pushing ourselves. What we have found as educators, some highly anxious children are no longer coming to school.
Mhm.
And, you know, I hate to say it, but parents are enabling that. Schools are no more dangerous than any other place for the pandemic, but it's being enabled. So we have a term for certain types of parents that are the hovering ones, the ones that do not allow their child to ever experience any type of anxiety. And, you know, like we said, there is anxiety that's healthy anxiety. We're called them helicopter parents. because they're always hovering. They're always just one step away from rescuing little Johnny. So I'm going to tell you a little story about a child that I taught several years ago. And this child had anxiety. He was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, which means it's not specific to spiders or anything like that. It's just in general. He's the what if kid. The what if, what if, the what if, the what if. And that's the general anxiety disorder. You worry about everything. So he started to tell his mother that I was really mean, and that I yelled in class, and that there were some other things. And the mom, of course, didn't know, but she wanted to believe her son, but she didn't quite think that would quite be true. So yeah, so she got on the phone with me and she told me what was going on, that he did not want to come to school. He was afraid to come to school. And these are the reasons. And I sat back and I thought about this a little bit. It's like, I questioned myself, because did I say anything to him that I wouldn't have said otherwise? Did I treat him differently? Did I really second guessed myself and my own teaching and how I was interacting with him. And I made it a point to ask him to do small things for me, to let him know that I was trying to have a relationship with him that was more than just, this is incorrect, this is correct, that kind of a relationship, right? And it turned out that his father, and I didn't find out about this until much later, it turned out that his father was very depressed to the point that he couldn't leave the house. And this child also wanted to be home because the dad was at home. This child had such a caring heart that he didn't want his dad to be alone at home in depression. So he knew that when he stayed home, that he could cheer his dad up. So the things that children go through, and I totally believe that he wanted to come to school, but he didn't want to come to school because he believed that his dad would do better if he was at home.
What an inner conflict for a young kid to go through.
Terrible, right? Terrible. And you think about all those other kids, the ones that have stuff going on at home, right? They've got usually, lots of times, I'm not saying usually, but lots of times, highly anxious adults came from homes that were unsafe in some way. Unsafe. So there was one caregiver, one parent who sometimes was in trouble with the law, had relationships issues, had life issues, right? And that created an unsafe environment. So that child grew up in an unsafe environment, and she carried those ideas into adulthood. And wherever we focus our energy, that grows. So if we look for the negative, wherever it is, we will find it.
That's such a good point, because, in my own life, I know I spoke about this before. I decided to stop watching news. And it's not like I am uninformed, but news became a source of anxiety and fear to me. So now I subscribe to get news headlines on my on email. So if there is something crucial that's going on in my world, I am aware of it. I can read the headlines, but I don't have to go sit in front of the news and be bombarded by that negative energy, and by instilling fear in me. And because that is, to me, exactly what is happening. And then find different coping skills. Like I am still informed, but I am not informed in a way that's creating fear. I can see the facts. I can see what's happening in the world. I can see if there's a big news event, but I'm not getting that, oh, be afraid, be very afraid kind of news sensationalism anymore. That's not part of my life anymore. And sometimes when I get somehow, whether I'm at a doctor's office or somewhere where there's a TV on, and I sit to get my car serviced and there's a TV on, and I had to sit through that. And I'm like, oh my goodness, once you are not exposed to that, you feel that draining energy so much. And I always believe, and we learn this, what you focus on will increase. So if you focus on that fear, it will increase. If you focus on, oh my gosh, this thing is never going away, probably not. So let's find something else to focus on. And that's why I always hammer on gratitude so much. If we focus on things that we can be grateful for, then we don't focus on fear. And if we deliberately start to do that as a habit, get something else to focus on instead of watching TV. Right now, I'm lucky because I am my first grandchild will be born in a few days, and so I am crocheting like crazy, and so I have definitely something else to focus on. But sometimes you have to take those deliberate steps to get your attention away from those things that we are being handed that creates fear and anxiety.
And I'm glad you said that, because one way of really getting through anxiety is to listen to songs,
Yes,
right? Really uplifting songs. And
I love
you know
that.
what yeah, and you know
Yes.
what songs do. Songs
Right.
stay in your head. I mean, you'll be singing a song like, or hear it on the radio, and what are you doing 3 hours later? The same words are going through your
Yeah.
head. So focus on a song that's uplifting.
And
Like
it's
one
the
of the
best
songs.
time of the year to just put a whole Christmas list on.
Exactly. Not just a Christmas list. Find
Right.
the songs that really inspire you.
Right.
One of the songs that I love is that song by Pink. I don't know if you listen to Pink,
Yeah.
but let's get this party started, right? You know, or something like that. There's that other one. This is my fight
Right.
song. Don't ask me the words,
Right.
but I know the tune.
Yeah, I
And the
love
tune,
Uptown Funk. Try to sit still and listen to Uptown Funk. You kind of have to start to dance, whether
you
you're a good
have
dancer
to.
or not. You
You
just have
have
to,
to.
right?
Yeah. I'm having the time of my life.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
I
That's
mean, that's a
awesome.
good old one, Patrick
Hmm.
Swayze. I
Right.
mean,
Oh
the
my
songs,
goodness. That takes me back. It's
right?
aging me.
Oh, Patrick Swayze.
Yes.
Twitter page. Yeah. So get a playlist. Get a
That's
playlist
such a
and
good
have
hint.
super
Yeah.
uplifting songs. And it's really hard not to start the tapping,
Mhm.
the bounce, and those, hopefully those are the words that stay in your head,
Exactly.
right? Rather than the negative ones.
Right. Mhm.
So, the power of words. We talked a little bit about the power of negative words. What we want to do is you want to change those negative words into something that's the opposite, but positive. So I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Go for it.
So how many times have you heard people say this job is killing me?
Oh,
It's
a lot.
killing me.
Yes. I've
I
said it.
just
I've said
this
it
job
many
this
times.
job is making me sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We all hear it.
Yes.
We all hear it. So instead of saying this job is killing me, it's making me sick, Marina, what words would you say to yourself?
I mean, I've done this for a long time, so I would definitely say I'm so grateful that I have a job.
Oh, isn't that the truth?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think of not having that job, and there's one thing that I've learned a few years ago, and that is, happiness is really a choice. And a lot of people are waiting for happiness to just fall out of the sky in the nap. It doesn't happen like that. So choose happiness in all circumstances. And I have learned, even in jobs where I had a lot of pressure or I did not love it, I learned a lot of times to put what I call the fullness of pleasure into it. It's a
Mm,
choice.
mhm. Yeah.
So that's something that I love.
Mhm. How about if I said, this is exhausting?
What can be an opposite? Um, I'm going to find something in this job that excites me.
Sure. Or I'm tired right now, but I haven't got my second wind yet.
Put on uptown funk and jump up and down. You'll get rid of that tiredness very fast.
Or how about, this is so hard. This
Oh,
is so
that is
hard.
something that's been very close to my heart, because I've had a client who used to say that a lot, and we finally got rid of that through RTT. And so I was at some point gonna go to Staples, and for those guys in not in North America, it's like a stationery store, and they had a commercial where there's this red button in the store that says that is easy, and then they press the button and it says that was easy. And my husband actually has one. And at some point, I wanted to get any client who ever tells me, oh, but it's so hard. I wanted to get them an easy button, because it's not in your head. That was easy. It's going to be easy.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
still, I still do that, Ron. I run a little Christmas business with a friend, and I still get at times when it does get stressful. So one of the things that I do is tapping, and I don't know how familiar you are with EFT, where you start to tap on
Mhm.
those trigger points, and that's something. And we can maybe one day do a whole demonstration on that. But man, that sometimes can take me out of it. But music is a big thing for me.
Mhm. Yeah. Tapping, there's been a lot of research done on tapping
Right,
and
right,
how it does get the
right.
energy moving. It sounds a little woo-woo, but there
If you
is.
don't experience it, like it really, it's something to be experienced, because I can feel it, especially when I get down here, when I feel it on my head. If I feel very stuck in any situation and I have a lot of negative energy, or if I need something to be creative about, but I just cannot get the words, I start to tap. I start to tap, and I
Interesting.
repeat all those affirmations and questions like, um, I feel completely stuck right now. I have to do a video, but I don't know what to say. I feel completely stuck. So I do that, and then I go, I don't understand why I'm so stuck. I know this material so well, but I just feel so extremely stuck in it. I know I have the thoughts inside me. I think about it a lot, but I cannot put it in words. And by the time normally I get to the second round of this, it's like, oh, aha, now I have it. So it's just one of those things, and you can actually feel how the energy starts to flow when you tap on certain points. So
Isn't that amazing?
that's
You,
definitely a topic we can discuss down the
yeah,
line here.
let's do it.
Yeah.
Um, there was something that you had just mentioned that triggered another memory for me. So I hear it all the time. My brain's just not working.
Mm.
I'm brain dead today. I can't remember.
I shouldn't have got out of bed this morning. I
I
hear
shouldn't
that.
have got out of
Yeah.
bed.
I
So
got out of on the wrong side of the bed. That's when I hear a lot.
so what if we change those words? Well, instead of saying, I forget, my brain's not working. How about we say, just say, it'll come to me. It'll come to me.
Exactly.
It's coming to me. It's coming to
Yes,
me.
that's one thing I've learned from Marissa, is to just say, "Oh well, I'll remember it now. Just move on." Oh,
I'll
and then
remember it.
2 seconds later, yes, there it comes.
Exactly. Or
Yeah,
even 15 seconds later, as soon as you change the topic,
yeah,
you'll remember, right?
right.
Power of words. Breathing.
Oh, I love that.
Oh,
Yes.
so there's a few different ways of handling anxiety through breathing.
Hmm.
Now, one of the ways is, I'll show you with this, okay? It's called the four square breathing. So You would breathe in to a count of 4, hold it to a count of 4, breathe out to a count of 4, hold it to a count of 4, breathe in to a count of 4, and hold it to a count of 4, and breathe out to a count of 4. So you almost visualize a square in your head, and you focus your breathing on the count of 4. For me, I like the 4 count and a 7 count. So it would be breathing into a count of 4, hold it just for a moment or two, and then breathing out to a count of 7. And when I do this, I can actually feel my muscles relaxing. On the count of 7, it's like, yeah, it's like my shoulders go down and I feel more relaxed. One other thing that I like to get clients to do is to imagine when they are breathing in and they're breathing out, that it's like an ocean wave coming over them, an ocean wave. You know, we've all done that, right? We've sat on the beach and let the water just go over us and then come back. And it's wonderful. So I like to do that with my clients to help them relax. Because, yeah, when they come for hypnotherapy, I don't think I've known one client, I don't know, maybe you have, who aren't anxious. It's a new experience. Of course, they're going to be anxious, right?
I don't know if it's anxiety. Yeah, I wouldn't say that, but there's definitely been an uncertainty about what exactly to expect. But that's why I do discovery calls. I do talk with them just to create a rapport and go through that. But it's something new. It's something new. And especially because we don't do the kind of hypnotherapy most people associate with stage work. We do rapid transformational therapy, and that is a combination of a few modalities. It's not just hypnotherapy. So we use some hypnotherapy, but we also do so much more.
We do. So I've got a couple more ideas for parents, right? Like, I don't know about you, but in our family, because I had 11 siblings, right? And so you've got all these older siblings telling younger siblings stuff like the boogeyman. Don't go there. There's the boogeyman that lives there, or whatever, you get all kinds of stuff. So kids get all kinds of anxieties because they've heard about something that, that was potentially scary, that they didn't even know what it meant, but it sounded so scary. And so one important thing that parents can do is really listen to their child. Don't poo-poo it, right? To say there's no such thing as the boogeyman. It doesn't do any good. So what does do good is to listen to the child. Listen to the child. Let them express their fears. Let them express their anxieties. And if you want to, so I know that Marissa Peer has done this before. She's actually said, well, if there's something that lives under your bed, let's go talk to it.
Exactly. Let's go get rid of it.
Let's go get rid of it. Let's go talk to it. What color is it? What's he saying now? What are you going to say back?
Right.
Well, you tell that whatever it is that lives under the bed.
Upgrade that child, give them some superpowers, right?
Give them some superpowers.
It's just the power of suggestion. Like a sibling may suggest that there is this fictional character that would put them in a state of fear. And in this exactly the same way, us as therapists or even parents can go as far as to suggest, oh, but I have superpowers. I can dissolve them. I can make them go poof. And you can do that too. So, that's what I love about working with children. Magic line.
Oh, goodness. Children are great to work with. Yes.
Those imaginations, it's just fantastic.
it can go either way, right? The imagination can lead you into anxiety, and it can lead you out of anxiety.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Depends what you feed it. So one of the problems nowadays is screen time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Too much screen time and not enough physical activity.
I agree.
And Marina, you and I both know if we didn't get any physical activity, we would be stuck in the house, consumed in our own thoughts.
Isn't that the truth?
So physical activity is extremely important. Get the kids out, get them playing outside,
Getting
away from the
vitamin
screen.
D.
Getting vitamin D, getting movement in your muscles to get rid of the extra energy that's getting trapped inside your body and manifesting as anxiety. Physical
Yeah, and that's
activity.
a stress release as well. And I feel if I get exercise, I sleep so much better. And now that I'm getting older, if I don't exercise, everything is sore. It's like that lubricant for the joints. If I exercise, I don't have knee pain. If I don't exercise, I have knee pain.
Chiropractor will tell you the same thing. It's also important that kids understand, right? The kids understand emotional, mental health, that it happens to everyone. And one of the best things you can do for a child who's experiencing anxiety or some type of a phobia is to have a role model adult who's gone through the same thing and come out the other side. And to say, yeah, when I was a kid, and actually I did this with my students today because we're studying weather. And when I was a child, I was petrified of thunderstorms.
Interesting.
Petrified, I know. So I'm a prairie kid. We get thunderstorms like every second day in the summer, and they would frighten me to no end. And I always believed that I would personally get struck by lightning. Like, so yeah, and so I eventually had to face that fear, right? I didn't have too many choices. It was either be able to hang out with my husband, watch the thunderstorm across the lake, or go hide in the house. And so I chose to hang out with my husband, watching the thunderstorm on the other side of the lake. And then I gradually came to see how beautiful it actually was. But having children talk to a primary adult who had the same fear and grew through it gives them hope, gives them understanding that, oh, I can do it too. If Mrs. Cadron can do it, then I can be not afraid as well. Public speaking is a big one.
Public speaking is definitely a big one. And to me, I've been really used to being on stage, so I really don't get that frightened anymore. But there's always I had a big performance not too long ago, and man, at the rehearsal, I was really, really scared. But the day of the performance itself, I know enough RTT to actually make that choice that I'm just going to be super excited about this, and I'm going to turn that fear into the anxiety into excitement, and I'm going to take deep breaths. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to visualize my joy. I'm just going to do all that, and it worked. It was lovely.
It works.
And you know what? I had fun. I had a lot of fun. So that's great. So Fran, our time is just about up here. So I want to invite our audience to leave a comment, because you made a very lovely anxiety meditation not too long ago. So if you don't mind, we did not discuss this before the time, but I think it would be lovely if, and I know you have said you will make that available. So leave a comment to us in our comments on this, and Fran will send you a message with a link to the anxiety meditation.
You bet. My pleasure.
Okay. And then thank you, Fran, so much. I have learned a lot, and I'm pretty sure everybody who are watching this have learned as well. And
I hope so.
Thank you so much for talking to us about this very important subject. Any last thoughts?
Marina, what are you talking about next week?
Well, this is one of my favorite topics, and it is finding your purpose. In my experience, when I was floating through life purposeless, I also was depressed.
Mhm.
And in finding my purpose, I got rid of depression. And it's lovely, lovely to live for what I know I was born to do. So we're going to talk about that. And I am really looking forward to that.
Mhm. I am looking forward to it too. And
Thank
I
you.
am looking forward to finding out about your grandbaby that's coming.
All right. Yes. Yes. No, I cannot wait. Well, exciting time.
Mhm. So hopefully by the next time we talk, hopefully you'll know.
I will.
Baby.
Yes,
Baby.
indeed.
Okay.
It may be, I think when we're recording this, it is on the day that the baby is born. Or, you know how it goes, you never know. So, but
Yeah.
maybe in 2 weeks I'll have some news, but definitely, yeah, soon.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you so much, Fran.
thank you. It's
We'll
been a
see you next
pleasure.
week.
Mwah.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.